Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we gather around the virtual water cooler, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And we do have a lot of good stuff to talk about here today, guys. Linda Hamilton making some comments about the future of the Terminator franchise and her place in it. Should Fast 10 look at adjusting their shooting schedule to accommodate Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Do they need to do that? Could New Mutants, or was New Mutants really going to have a big impact, or could they in the future on any future X-Men stuff? We're going to get to that in a little bit as well. Should Disney consider postponing the release of Mulan, considering all the things going on in China right now with the coronavirus, and knowing that China is a big part of their plans for this movie? That and a few things more. And I'm not doing it alone today, ladies and gentlemen. Some guy came walking in off the street looking for directions. Apparently his car broke down, wanted to use my phone, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the smartest guys in this business, Mr. Dennis Zen, is here today. Dennis, how you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me, John. It feels like old times, old AMC movie talk times.
How many years has it been since you and I have done a video together? Because, I mean, we hang out all the time. And, like, we're always going watching UFC and all that, but we've never actually, like, it's been a long time since we've been on camera.
2015?
Hasn't been that
16,
long.
maybe?
It's been a while.
Been a while, but I mean, this reminds me kind of even before then, the AMC movie talk.
The closet days?
Yeah.
The storage closet days, because it was not much bigger than this, and we're kind of using go. Anyway, guys, we do have all this stuff to talk about here, but before we get to those main topics, guys, we do have one thing to get to off the top, and that is this. Now, we all know that there is a new Jurassic World movie coming. Of course, Colin Trevorrow put out that really great little short film. What was it called again? Jurassic
Battle
World?
at Big Rock?
Battle at the Park, or Battle at Big Rock?
Yeah.
You're right. Battle at Big Rock, really cool, kind of setting the stage for what the new movie would be. We found out all the original cast is coming back as well. That's always nice. But the one thing we don't know about this Jurassic World movie is, what is the title of the movie going to be? Well, we may actually have a little bit of an idea as to what it may be. Now, here's what happened. Apparently, a fan got on Twitter and put up a huge list of potential titles for Jurassic World. What makes this story interesting is that the director of Jurassic World himself, Colin Trevorrow, got on and actually confirmed what was happening. You know what? I got to close this down because this thing is driving me crazy. I hate this. This is freaking... I'm trying to bring up this thing. There we go. Sorry, it's the website. It's terrible. Do me a favor, Dread Central. Do something about your incredibly obnoxious ads that you have pop up all over the place. Anyway, so they have... this guy put up this tweet with possible things, and Colin Trevorrow actually then jumped on and said, somebody actually got it right. And he later confirmed, no, he wasn't kidding. Somebody actually got... one of the titles listed is actually the title for the movie. So there's like 20 of them, but let's run down them here really quick, okay? So we got The Jurassic World, the Jurassic Park of Jurassic World, Jurassic World Survival, Jurassic World Clash of Worlds, Illusion of Control, New Era / A New Era, Dawn of a New Era, Rise of New Era, Rise of the New Kingdom, Edge of Chaos, Chaos Effect, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, Reverie, War for the Planet, Ancient Futures, Long Live the Dinosaurs, Rex in the City, which is great, Illusion of Control, Extinction, New King, The Return of the King, Dinotopia, You Asked for It, Humans, When Worlds Collide, Coexistence, and one of my favorites is This Series Needs to Throw in the Towel. So that's all in there. Now, as funny as some of those are, clearly some of these are not going to be the title, but one of these apparently is the title for the film. Dennis, you've had a chance to look at a bunch of these titles. Which one in particular or couple stand out to you as being actual contenders that these very well could be the title of the movie? Which ones do you think it would be?
I think they should call it Rise of Skywalker. That should be the Jurassic World Rise of Skywalker.
It would make about as much sense.
Yes. Edge of Chaos, I think, is one of the leading front runners, just because it makes a little more sense based on if they want to do basically a continuation of after the short film that Colin Trevorrow did, because I really like that, the Battle of Big Rock. I actually got to see it on the big screen.
Really?
Yeah. Like we did a screening that had it was Jurassic World, and then they screened Battle of the Big Rock after it, and it was actually they did it before. I missed it, and they did it again after, so I got to finally see it. But I really like it. So if they continue on from that, I feel like Edge of Chaos is kind of apropos towards that theme.
I am really close to what you're guessing. I think the one that makes more sense, some of these are very, very obvious, and that's why I think they won't, like Jurassic World Extinction. So I don't think they're going to go with that. Jurassic World Survival, that's a possibility. But the one I think, which is right next to yours, you went for Edge of Chaos?
Yeah.
I think Chaos Effect.
Okay.
Because to me, that's a little bit of a harkening back to Jeff Goldblum's lines in the original film about chaos theory and all that kind of stuff. So I actually look at this and I think Chaos Effect kind of makes the most sense. Ancient Futures also sounds like one that a boardroom at a studio would come up with. So that could be it, I suppose, Clash of Worlds. But I think the one I'm leaning towards myself is Chaos Effect. The question here, guys, is for you. Which one of these titles? They're saying one of these titles is actually going to be the title for the new Jurassic World movie. Question is, which one do you think it's actually going to be? Which one was your favorite out of the list as well? Jump on down to the comments section below and leave your thoughts there. Okay, with that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going 24/7 any time of the day over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here as a main topic on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's jump into topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted into us by Big Wave, who writes, "Hey, John, I saw an interview in which Linda Hamilton said she would be quite happy to never return to the Terminator franchise. So, do you think that the Terminator franchise is officially dead for at least the foreseeable future? Or will they be like MoviePass and they somehow manage to crawl around half dead for a couple of years?" Great analogy, Big Wave. All right, thanks a lot for sharing that. So yeah, listen, if you're wondering what is he talking about, of course, Linda Hamilton came back for the most recent Terminator film. Full disclosure, I didn't mind the last Terminator film, actually. I saw it wasn't great, but I actually thought it was better than some people made it out to be. And it's one of the better Terminator films, I think, since Terminator 2, but the bar on that is not real high. So I understand that's not saying much. But Linda Hamilton has come out. She was asked about this, and she made some pretty interesting comments. She said the following. She said, it should definitely not be, like they're asking her if they did another one. She said, it should definitely not be such a high-risk financial venture, but I would be quite happy to never return. So no, I am not hopeful because I would really love to be done. Not only was she saying, I'd be fine if I never came back, she said, I would really love to be done. And that, of course, comes to us from Linda Hamilton. Now, this raises a couple of questions. One question would be, why would somebody like Linda Hamilton come out and say something like this? Because my normal feeling on something like this, Dennis, is that, you know, if you're an actor, and look, Terminator just came out on home video. So they're still trying to promote this thing, right? It's not great for home video sales, whether it's streaming or whatever is left of physical media and stuff like that. It's not great for home video sales when you have one of the marquee stars, maybe one of the best parts of that entire movie, coming out and saying, I don't ever want to come back. I would love to be done. I mean, it's not great. I usually prefer that actors would kind of, you know, look, don't lie, but don't come out and blatantly say, I would love to be done. I never want to come back. Because that, like, if there's somebody on the fence about coming back or about going out and buying the movie, having one of the stars basically saying, I hated my existence here and coming back for this thing, that's got to be a deterrent. Dennis, they asked the question, with a comment like this, do I think the Terminator is done for the foreseeable future? I think an argument could be made that they may have been done for the foreseeable future after the box office, because it made mid 200 millions worldwide. Not great. I mean, if you or I made a movie that made $200 million, we'd be very happy. But for a Terminator film, not great. So I almost would feel, even without Linda Hamilton's comments, that the immediate future, like the next 5 years, say, of Terminator is a little bit in doubt at any rate. With Linda Hamilton coming out and saying things like this, I don't know how you, from a PR perspective, come out 2 years from now and say, we're doing another Terminator, and go, your own star was trash talking. I don't know. I think we're not going to see another Terminator film for at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I actually quite enjoyed the last Terminator, the Terminator Dark Fate. It is the best one since T2, notwithstanding Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles. But I do think they're done for the foreseeable future just because it was such a costly venture. I think it was, what, 150, 160?
Yeah, it was real expensive.
And then, 260 worldwide, is not a lot of money. So I think if they were to return, it would have to be with what Linda Hamilton is saying, something smaller like the original first film, where it's like make it sort of a almost indie sci-fi style, right? Maybe do a $20-30 million budget and then have that. I have a special place in my heart for the Terminator franchise. But I do understand that kind of this new audience and the younger people growing up don't have that affection for it. So that's why it doesn't do so well at the box office. And also the previous movies didn't help, right? Like the ones that just with Salvation and Genesis and all that stuff. So, but in terms of her comments, normally I would be like, oh man, this is a star bad-mouthing the franchise that she's in, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't she want more work, blah, blah. But we had shot an interview with her like right before the movie had come out. And this is before all the box office, disappointment, I guess you would say. And you could tell from her responses that it's not, I don't think she's necessarily like saying anything bad about the Terminator franchise. They had to convince her just to do this one, right? Like James Cameron had to actually like get her sit her down and say, look, this is the way we're going, and Tim Miller as well. And so I think it's more of her as a person. Like just watching that interview that she did, she just seems more, I don't know, she's not into the whole like big star thing. Or so normally, right, as someone who's a star of a franchise would be like, okay, let's do the next one, so I can keep being in the public eye, making money, et cetera, et cetera. And she just seems more content with doing projects that she likes. And I think she's just done with the Terminator herself. So I foresee them doing maybe something else further down the line, cheaper and without Linda Hamilton.
It's funny, the press screening, and I don't go to a lot of them anymore, but I wanted to go to that one.
Yeah.
So Mackenzie Davis came out and surprised the audience at the press screening I was at, and welcomed the audience and all that kind of stuff. And she mentioned that Linda was supposed to be here tonight, but she got sick. And it's like, oh, that's unfortunate. But after seeing some of the interviews that she's done, and after hearing her comments now, I'm sitting here in hindsight. And look, I could be totally just reading into this, absolutely. But I'm now in hindsight going, I wonder if Linda Hamilton was actually ill that night or if she just didn't want to be there. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Guys, the question then gets thrown over to you. What do you think about Linda Hamilton's comments? Do they surprise you? Do they not surprise you at all? Do you think this speaks anything to about what the immediate future of a Terminator franchise should be? Should they come right back out of the gate and make another one? Should they wait a few years? How are you feeling about it? Jump into the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Dan, who writes, I was curious, with the Mulan movie set to release just over a month from now, it's really closer to it's really 2 months from now, and with the coronavirus issue impacting China, do you think Disney might consider pushing the release date of the movie, considering that this movie is heavily targeted towards the Chinese market? All right, thanks a lot for sending that question in, man. And listen, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Listen, the coronavirus thing is becoming, it's not just big news, it's actually a big deal. Like, we're seeing the number of reported cases on this thing like doubling every day and a half. It's really rather scary what's going on over there. And we're seeing a lot of things. They're shutting things down, all that kind of stuff. It is affecting the industry. I understand. Listen, I said this before. I understand there are more important things in life right now than the movie industry and the box office and stuff like that. But that's what this show talks about. We talk about the movie industry, so we're going to talk about how this issue is affecting the film industry in and of itself, when obviously this is a much bigger issue. But I just wanted to give that kind of disclaimer on that. We're already seeing that it's really affecting production out there. It's really heavily affecting the box office of a lot of films out there. And you raise an interesting question. With this whole notion that we have, this movie that Disney is putting a lot of stock in, guys. They are very proud of this movie. They've been excited about releasing this movie. They believe they've got a great cast for it. They believe they got a great story. They believe they have a very special film. And you're absolutely 100% right. The Chinese box office is a big part of those plans for obvious reasons. Should they postpone it? I'm normally the guy, Dennis, who goes, you know what? No, you move forward. Life moves on. You keep plowing ahead and stuff like that. But in a situation like this, with such huge financial stakes on the line for this film and what they want to do, I think it would be naive for myself or any of us to believe that not only will this coronavirus thing be completely contained and done in just 2 months, but all the ramifications of just the impact it's had already are going to be totally done and dealt with, and everything's going to be fine. And China's not that big of a deal when it comes to the box office for this particular film. I think it would be incredibly naive. So I'm the guy who normally says just keep moving forward, but I'm kind of feeling like, you know what? Yeah, postpone this. Pull the release date. Push it off another 2 months. Or 3 months. I mean, it's not really going to cost them any money except for a little bit more in marketing and some of the wasted marketing money. But I feel like that is a small price to pay for what price they might pay if they need to just move forward and release it on the release date. I think there's probably a lot of good arguments against that, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling about it right now. Dennis, as you're looking at the situation, you're in the boardroom at Disney right now, and they come around to your chair and they say, Dennis, what do we do? Do we postpone this? Do we move forward as planned? What do you advise them to do?
Well, I'm just wondering if they would conceivably release it here in the U.S. and hold off the China release for later. And definitely
stagger the release.
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely a big deal. I mean, you have to understand they basically canceled Chinese New Year. And people don't know Chinese New Year in China is like Christmas and regular New Year's combined. You get like a whole week or so off of work, and they were like, they didn't want the coronavirus to possibly spread. So they're like, you guys cannot celebrate at all.
Right.
We, stay at home. I know they told some people to like work from home and all that stuff. So it's just one of those things where it is a big deal, and it's possible. And also, on a side note, aside from just the coronavirus thing, it's like Mulan. I'm very interested in see how it does in China versus here. Like here we've had, that cartoon was in 1990 something. I forgot the exact year.
Right.
So it's been a long time. We've never seen a live action version before. But in China, they had a live action version of Mulan in 2009, I believe.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, if they are open to this Disney version and what's going to make it, different so that the Chinese audience in China will go flocking to go see it.
Right. Interesting. So, but we put the question to you guys now. Let's say you're in that boardroom with Bob Iger and Alan Horn, and they're trying to figure out, do we just keep on course? Maybe you do a staggered release, like Dennis is suggesting. Release it here on schedule and then put it out in China a little bit later. Maybe you want to keep it coordinated. If you're in charge there, what do you do about this? I'm curious to know what you think. I have an opinion, but I'm not so sure about my own opinion on it. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, Hey, John and gang. Screen Rant just released a quote from Josh Boone during a set visit all the way back in 2017. And he said New Mutants was pitched as a horror trilogy and that the movie will have connections and implications on the Fox X-Men universe. Do you think these connections and implications will still be in the movie? All right, thanks a lot for sharing that. And for those of you who are wondering what he's talking about, so Josh Boone, the director of New Mutants, which is allegedly finally coming out 17 years after they originally announced it would, it's finally coming out. And apparently, so back in the day when they did a set visit with him, he made these comments. Now, here's the comments specifically that they're talking about. When we went to go tell Fox we wanted to do this movie, we made them a comic book, which is a great idea. We made them a comic book. It was like a PDF that pitched them a kind of a trilogy of films, each one's in its own unique kind of horror movie. The first one's a supernatural horror movie. I won't say what the other two are, but they're horror movies, but different horror movies each time. Oh yes, we're in the same universe, and there will be things that fans will really be excited about that will have repercussions in other movies and other parts of the X-Men world and all of that. So it should be really cool. I'm excited. And of course, that comes from the director, Josh Boone. Here's the thing about that, though. This has brought up a question with a lot of people, which is simply twofold. One question I've seen a lot of people talking about is, could these other two movies still happen? I mean, like, look, they're doing New Mutants. Apparently, they've got these things planned. They have ideas for these other films. They've already put them in comic book form, so they've basically already got an outline for it. Could it be possible that they still move forward and do these other horror movies that they've been talking about? The other implication that somebody brought up, and we've seen some discussion on this online, is, could Disney even further than that? We've seen lots of people asking, could they bring X-Men New Mutants into the MCU? A lot of people have been asking, hey, if New Mutants is big and successful, could we possibly see them bring New Mutants into the MCU? And if so, the extension of that on this story is, could we see New Mutants? They were saying that this New Mutants movie was going to have an impact on the X-Men films in the Fox universe. Could they say and change things up so this has an impact on the MCU and possibly the forthcoming X-Men films? Dennis, to me, the simplest answer seems to be the most clear. No. I mean, it feels to me like, I think Disney, and I don't know this, but I think Disney's going to take the same approach with this movie that they did with Dark Phoenix. That we've got it, the money was spent, it was made, it's one of our assets, we're going to put it out in theaters and get as much box office money out of it as we can. But I really don't think they're going to adapt it, change it to suddenly force it into the MCU when this was a movie that Kevin Feige never had any influence on whatsoever. So I kind of feel like this is going to be a one and done, and they're not going to do the other horror movies, and they're not going to tie it into the MCU as it is. I mean, it's possible they could. I just don't think they will. Do you think they will?
No, I don't think so. The only way that would happen is if for some, and it would be a very long shot, that this movie makes a ton of money, it's a huge success, and people are clamoring for more. Because that's the only reason why they're, all the talk about Deadpool 3 under Disney is actually, going to happen, because it was a big success. Right. People loved it. People want more. But if it hadn't been, I think Disney would just toss it aside and said, okay, we don't need this. And the same thing with New Mutants. This is something that, like you said, doesn't factor into the MCU at all. And I think they will pull any type of things that are talking about, the X-Men or whatnot, because they don't want to cloud people's minds once the MCU X-Men comes out. Right. I'm quite surprised they didn't drop this on the Disney Plus service, because as people rumored, they were saying, well, this isn't going to fit in anywhere. They've been delaying this thing for a long time. Why not use it as an asset to get people to subscribe to Disney Plus? Because, right now, there isn't much, now that The Mandalorian's over, Disney Plus doesn't have much going for it until one of the MCU shows debuts, and they need more stuff. Yeah, they need more original stuff. I mean, it's funny because that's a secondary topic, but it didn't strike me before Mandalorian came out that, they really don't have anything else significant, big marquee stuff. I mean, they've got their High School Musical, the reboot, whatever it's called. Yeah. And Jeff Goldblum The World According to Jeff Goldblum, I really like that show. And now they're launching like The Diary of a Future President or something like more kid-related stuff. Yeah. You're right, though. Like once Mandalorian was done, that's when you really became aware of, there's really nothing else keeping me on Disney Plus right now. I don't know if I'm going to stick around. And I think that, speaking to your point, I think that was one of the reasons why a lot of people thought maybe they will just release this thing on there. But I guess they figured they could make more money on it, putting it in theaters. Because whatever it makes, even if it only makes $100 million worldwide, it's $100 million more than it would have made otherwise. So question is, guys,
What do you think about this? Do you think there's a possibility that Disney could take this New Mutants film and actually stretch it into the MCU and do more horror films? Do you think, like Dennis is like, hey, listen, if this thing makes $900 million worldwide, you have to? Do you think maybe if it does that they're still not going to do anything with it? How do you feel about it? What would you do? Jump into the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to the fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted into us by Jeff Bingham, who writes, with Dwayne Johnson set to begin filming Black Adam this summer, I realized that Fast and the Furious 10 will have to be filming around the same time to meet its current April 2021 release date. Even though Johnson teased a return to the core Fast saga for the 10th installment, it feels like there could be a scheduling conflict. Should Fast 10 be pushed back to accommodate Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, we all know there's been a long-running feud between Dwayne Johnson and a couple of members of Fast and the Furious, particularly Tyrese and Vin Diesel himself. But a number of months ago, we saw that both Vin and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson seemed to quash the beef, and they were saying nice, kind things about each other. And you're right, Dwayne Johnson has suggested that he will be back for 10. Okay. But he's about to do Black Adam. And it's going to come out in the same year. And could they be shooting around the same time? Is there time for it? And should Fast and Furious 10 move its shooting date to accommodate Dwayne Johnson? Let me address that second part first. The answer to the second question, should they move the shooting date of Fast 10 to accommodate Dwayne Johnson, I believe is no. You know, the characters are there to serve the movie. The actors are there to serve the character. The movie is not there to serve the characters. Now, look, if they've already written their script and it's definitely got Dwayne Johnson in it and it's unavoidable, you have to have it, then yeah, you figure out some way to make it work. But otherwise, I mean, you move on. However, I don't think this is going to be a problem. I don't think this is going to be a problem at all for a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody thinks that when a movie's being made, that it takes a year, 2 years to make, and it does. But a lot of people seem to think that the actors are there for the entire time. They're always on stage. The reality is the actors are usually there for about a month and a half, 2 months of the movie, sometimes really, really big ones that might stretch out a little bit more, but they're really not there for all that long. I want to point out something here. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in 2019, just the year 2019, had Jumanji: The Next Level. The first half of the year, he was still shooting the endings of his show, Baller. He had Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, and he had Fighting with My Family. Not a huge role in Fighting with My Family, granted, but that's 3 feature films, a television show, all that done in 1 year. As we look at 2018, he had both Skyscraper and Rampage in 2018. As we go down to 2017, if we gloss over just his voice work and video game stuff, he did Baywatch. It's just best that we don't even talk about that. He did Baywatch. He did Fast and Furious. And then the year before that, 2016, he did Central Intelligence. He did... the point is, he does multiple films every year. He's on set for a couple of months, and then he goes on another set for a couple of months. So I really don't think, even though we have movies coming out roughly the same time, look, we just had a place. What was the actor, Dennis? We just had this past year, like an actor who literally had 2 movies opening on the same weekend. And I remember talking about, but I can't remember which actor it was.
But isn't Keanu Reeves going to have Matrix 4 and,
yes,
and John Wick 4 come out on the same day?
Yes, right now it's technically scheduled to come out on the same day. And who the hell knows if they don't somehow try to jump on that and put Bill and Ted to release on the same day too. So the point is, Dwayne Johnson is a very, very active guy. He's very busy. He keeps himself completely busy. And I don't think the idea of having 2 movies is going to be all that huge. And actually, I remember the last Fast movie he was in, 8, I believe he said he was only on set for like 6 weeks. I think he only did 6 weeks of shooting. So I don't think this is honestly going to be any problem whatsoever. Dennis, you look at a situation like this, just the logistics of it. Could this be a problem? Or do you think this is just going to be another day in the office for somebody like Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem. one of the hardest working men in the business, so he tries to stack as much stuff as possible. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. Also, we don't know how big a role he's going to have, because remember in 7 he was like barely in it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
sure he was probably like on set for like 2 weeks or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. But if it were, I would say I'd be the opposite of you. I'd say yes, delay it for him for 2 reasons. One, at least for me myself, like, I was not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise until the 5th one when he joined, and
right.
it kind of revitalized the franchise. And then 2, you have the 9 coming out in a few months.
Trailer comes out today.
Yeah.
Later today.
And then having the next one come out, like I have the thought, like, these things should be spaced out especially now you have so many of them.
Yeah.
The further apart you can spread them out. You don't want things to be like so spread apart where like people forget. But at the same time, if you're like right on top of each other, sometimes people get fatigued. So I think delaying a whole year is not an issue.
All right. Well, question here is, guys, there's 2 different questions here, really. Number 1, you're a studio exec. Do you delay production of an entire movie just to make sure you can get The Rock in there? There may be a good argument for that. But honestly, do you even think that's going to be an issue? I don't. Maybe you do see a problem with it. Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our 5th and final main topic today. And our 5th and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Edgar Manning, who writes, "Hey, John and community. First time, long time. Thank you so much, Edgar, for writing in. I'm just as surprised as anyone to hear the positive reactions to Harley Quinn. It got me thinking, if the movie really is as good as people are saying it is, and that's 4 significant wins in a row with a couple of billion-dollar films for DC, can we now say that DC has caught up with Marvel in the movie world, or is that still a little bit premature?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Edgar. And yeah, we talked yesterday on the show about the first reactions to Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. By the way, you know, the official name of the movie is Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. But in TV spots, I started noticing in TV spots, like especially like on some football games when Harley Quinn was one of the sponsors of it, the text they were given was to say Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey is what they were calling it, even though the official title. So I don't know. I bet you I'm willing to put money that whenever the Blu-ray or DVD comes out, they're going to pull an Edge of Tomorrow sort of thing on it, and it's going to say Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. I bet you that's what they're going to do. Anyway, first reactions came out, and they were really surprisingly good. Now, I didn't go to the press screening.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
One of the main reasons I didn't go, other the fact that I don't go to a lot anymore, but is that honestly, I thought this movie looked bad. I have not been big on the trailers. I've never really understood even the reason for this movie existing, to be honest with you. So then I see these initial reactions coming out. I'm going, oh, damn. I mean, and some people we know, like saying they really enjoyed this film a hell of a lot. Now, lest you be tempted to just brush off the question as being so ridiculous, like, oh, how can we possibly say DC's got with Marvel? Let's put this in context a little bit. If we're talking in terms of the right now, like I don't care if the Green Bay Packers have won, how many Super Bowls have they won? I don't know. Let's just say 9 for the argument's sake. It's probably less than that. But I don't care if the Green Bay Packers have won 6, 7, 8, 9 Super Bowls. The Baltimore Ravens, even though they're out, they're a better team right now. Right now, they're a better team. I would put $5 on Baltimore winning their next game more than I would of Green Bay winning their next game. So I'm not talking long term. There is absolutely no way DC is going to catch up with the overall 23 film, $24 billion box office totals. They're not going to catch up to that in maybe ever, and certainly not in the next few years. But in terms of how reliable are their movies right now, how much can we actually generate excitement for them right now, and are they putting out quality product that is worth getting excited about right now? In that term, have they caught up? And I'm going to suggest it's not as dumb as a question as some people might think it is initially, because let's take a step back. Look, let's put this in context for a second. Aquaman was a fun movie. And it was the first movie in the DCEU era for DC that made $1 billion. You know, something I never thought would happen. I thought the film would be successful. I never thought that thing would make $1 billion, ever. And it made $1 billion. Then Shazam came out, which honestly is my second favorite DC movie, other than Man of Steel. So that came out. I thought that, granted, I like the movie a lot more than most people do, but I loved Shazam. Loved it. So that was 2 wins in a row. Then comes Joker. A little bit of a different kind of movie. Not a DCEU movie, not anything like that. Different kind of a movie. Oh, look at that. $1 billion film, Best Picture Oscar nomination. Both, all right? That's 3 wins in a row. Let's speculate now. If Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey is as good as people are saying it is right now, I still don't know how this is going to do at the box office. I don't know if a lot of people are going to be interested or not, but let's just talk quality for a second. If it is that good, well, now you got 4. And I'm going to go out on a big limb here and just say, since Patty Jenkins is directing it, I'm just going to assume right now that Wonder Woman 84 is going to be great. Okay. Now, great. That may turn out to be wrong. Maybe the movie will be a bloody mess and it'll suck and all that. Fine. But for now, Patty Jenkins gets the benefit of the doubt from me. If she's directing it, I'm just going to assume it's going to be great. So there's a little bit of assumption jumping here. But if you follow that, that'll suddenly be 5 solid films in a row, including a couple of $1 billion ones and including a Best Picture nomination. And in a post-Endgame world where, honestly, I have sensed, since Endgame was done, I have kind of sensed this, the lack of a better analogy, I guess, is a deflation of the overall excitement for the MCU. Not because anything bad has happened in the MCU, it's just that Endgame's done. Mm-hmm. It's done. That was the crescendo. That was the climax of the whole thing. That's what we've been building up to for all these years. And it's done. And Black Widow looks good. But I don't sense the type of anticipation of people looking at Black Widow the way they did for, say, Doctor Strange, or the way they did, say, for a Wonder Woman, or the way they did, say, for other films like that. I'm just not sensing that level of excitement. And you know what? I'm not going to jump here and say, yes, DC is caught up. I think there's a couple things that need to happen to say that. I'm just saying that if Birds of Prey is as good as they're saying it is, and that's a big if, and if Patty Jenkins delivers in Wonder Woman 84, which I feel confident about, but it's still an if. But if that happens, Dennis, I think we may be, if not caught up, I think we're in a place that we as comic book movie fans should be really damn happy with. Whereas now we have two companies putting out comic book movies that it looks like they're both just cranking out really quality stuff. And if you're not going to say that DC has caught up with them by the end of 184, you're going to have to at least say, oh my God, the gap has narrowed. So I don't know. That's how I'm feeling about it. Dennis, admittedly, I got a lot of assumptions in me saying that, but you're looking at kind of the patterns we're seeing. Where do you see this all sitting right now?
Yeah, I think they haven't caught up yet, but they're definitely closed the gap significantly. Even without these two, I mean, look, we're gonna assume that Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, with the reactions it being, good, not just being that, but being a box office hit. And I didn't care for Aquaman, but it made over $1 billion, and so that's where it counts for the studios. So let's assume Birds of Prey does well. I think Wonder Woman is a lock to do very well. I think they've closed the gap significantly because remember, before Aquaman, it was Justice League.
Yeah.
It was, and that was like when people were like, is the DCEU dead? Because, you had that kind of hit with Wonder Woman, and then everyone was tying their hopes to Justice League, and then it just didn't do that well at the box office. Yeah. I don't hate on the movie like some people, but it just didn't do well at the box office. It did like less than some random comic book movies that have just
It was the lowest at the time. It was the lowest grossing. Justice League, their Avengers, was the lowest grossing of all the DCEU films at that point. It was just crazy to think about.
Yeah. So at that point, you're thinking, oh my God, the whole thing's done, it's over. But now they've steadily climbed back, and now they're almost. I think also with the Marvel thing, you're right. So they had Avengers Endgame, and so they're almost they have to reboot their whole universe in a sense. It's still the MCU, but look, their two main guys, Iron Man and Captain America, they're gone.
Yep.
You don't have those two guys that you built up from the very beginning that people love. People love Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans in those roles. Those are gone. We still have things people are waiting to see, like Black Panther and Doctor Strange and whatnot, but they don't have quite the fan base as those two do. Black Widow is an anomaly to me because I think part of the reason why people aren't as buzzed for it is because it has no future implications really on the MCU
good
universe.
point.
It's a character that we already know has passed away. There might be some little hints and foreshadowing within the story, but really it's a throwback, right? It's a prequel for the character, and so I think people are more excited to see when the next movie comes out that is directly implicating where the MCU is going,
right?
Like whether it's going to be Secret Wars or whatnot.
So, listen, again, guys, the question is to you: when you look at where we're at and where we could be going in the near future. And by the way, I want to throw one more thing out there, Dennis. One more thing out there, because I think in the midst of all this, and let me bring up this graphic one more time. Again, these are assuming the Wonder Woman turns out to be what a Patty Jenkins movie would be, and if Birds of Prey is as good as people are saying they are. By the way, have you been watching the Harley Quinn animated show?
No.
Oh my God. I thought it looked like ass. I thought it looked awful, and my viewers were constantly telling me, John, you gotta check this out. I'm like, no, I don't like Marvel or DC's animated stuff. No, trailers look dumb. Who cares? Blah. John, you gotta check it. I finally checked it out. Ann and I are obsessed with this show now. It's so well written. It is so clever. Anyway, if this turns out to be good, here's the thing. I mention him a lot, and a lot of people always poo-poo on the fact that I do. One of the interesting things about this graphic is this graphic represents the era of Walter Hamada at DC. Mm-hmm. And I do not think he's getting near enough credit for this. Now, I constantly see people saying, oh, Walter Hamada has nothing to do with it. But these are the same people that'll go, the people who don't like what's going on in Star Wars, they'll immediately blame Kathleen Kennedy because she's in charge. Yeah. Whenever, all of a sudden, magically, this DCEU that was despite the fact that I've liked all the movies, the DCEU has been very divisive and a lot of bumps in the road and blah, blah. All of a sudden, the new sheriff in town comes along. And all of a sudden, they seem to have a different philosophy of what it used to be. And all of a sudden, all these movies are ending up being crowd-pleasing and people are enjoying them and they're succeeding and stuff like that. I just think more people we need to give a little bit more credit to the fact that the common denominator here is they made a change in leadership at the top. And I just think he deserves a little bit more credit for that. But anyway, guys, the question is for you. How do you feel about this whole thing? I know it feels a little bit like a loaded question, but not talking about overall going back 10 years, but where we're at right now. Do you feel like if these movies turn out as well as the last 3 or 4 have, do you think an argument to be made that the DC movies have caught up or at least massively closed the gap? Or do you kind of feel like right now, you know what, John, it's a little bit premature. They still got a long way to go. Let's see what happens over the next 5 years. How do you feel about it? And I actually made that the topic of today's question of the day. And the way I phrased today's question of the day was simply this. I asked you guys, if Harley Quinn, and again, big if, big assumption, if Harley Quinn is as good as they say, and we assume Patty Jenkins makes Wonder Woman 84 great, that's 5 wins in a row for DC. With Endgame behind us, could we say DC has caught up to Marvel in terms of where they're at right now? And I'll tell you what, this poll is way closer than I thought it would be, because I thought this would be like 95-5, but 70.7, still a big majority of you guys are saying, no, not yet. We can't talk in terms of DC catching up to them yet. Still got a long way to go. But almost 30% of you guys, 29.3% of you guys are saying, yeah, they're actually both doing great right now. They have kind of closed the gap. So I want to ask you guys, how would you answer that? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're going to move on to the live questions part of the show. But before we do, Dennis Zen, Vice President of Production, is that still your title? Vice President of Production over at Collider. He's got a job he's got to go and do. So we're going to let him go right now before we take our break. Dennis, thanks so much for dropping in here and doing this with us today. I know everybody on the show here has appreciated having you here. Where, in the meantime, can people find you online if they want to follow you?
Well, thanks a lot for having me on the show today. Feels like old times.
It does. This is great. I'm loving this.
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on Instagram, Dennis.tzng. And thanks for checking us out.
And so, guys, just hang tight with me. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to take 4 minutes here, rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill my drink, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom. So we will be back in just 4 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And we are back. Thank you guys for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there. Hey, how great was it to have the great Dennis Zen in here again? It has been like, I forget sometimes because Dennis and I hang out all the time, but it's been so long since he and I actually did a video together. So we touched base last night and say, hey, he's got actually a little bit of a loose schedule today. And I didn't have a co-host on for today. And he came in and I got to tell you guys, I'm just grinning ear to ear. So fun to do a video with Dennis Zen again. Anyway, guys, let's now jump over to the live questions. 2 ways you can send in live questions, by the way, guys. The best way to do it is to use the tip link that's in the top line of the description of this video. That's just streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. That's the best way to send it in. And you can send in questions with tips there 24/7. And if you send it in early, there'll be one of the first questions that we get answered the next day. Or you can just use the super chat feature here on YouTube. All right, with that down, let's get into our live questions. And our first live question today comes to us from AV Cali, who writes, "Hey, John, sometimes I wonder how in the world are they going to introduce the X-Men in the MCU, or should they leave them to their own universe?" Listen, that's been a big topic of conversation, guys, for a while. I personally, here's what I would like. What I would like is for them to keep X-Men in their own universe. It's just so, the X-Men property is so huge with so many characters. You could easily have them in their own universe and have a really new, different variety of films. But I know that's not what they're going to do. They're going to bring them in. How they're going to bring them in has been the $1 million question. Actually, the $1 billion question. How do you bring them in? Without disregarding the classic heritage of what the X-Men are and who they are and all that kind of stuff, then what do they do? How do they bring that in? How do they bring that in? What do they do with it? Do you say, the events of Endgame caused mutation? I was thinking, okay, you could do that, but then you're kind of getting rid of and ignoring all the foundational lore of what mutation in the world has been, the formation of Magneto and Professor Xavier and their history. You're getting rid of all that if you're just saying Endgame did it. I mean, you could, but it's problematic. So, I mean, I don't know. Well, we're going to have to see, but hopefully they're going to do well with it. Hopefully they're going to do something strong with it, and we're just going to have to wait and see. All right, next up, Willow writes, "I had low expectations for Birds of Prey, you and me both. I still have moderate expectations, but hearing these reactions has done a lot to get me a little bit more excited for it, I gotta say. So the initial reactions have gotten my hopes up considerably. As for The Man from Toronto, that's the new movie coming out that's going to star Jason Statham and Kevin Hart. Well, I'd be a lot more interested if the movie was called The Man from Vancouver. East Coast, West Coast thing. By the way, I don't know. I didn't have a chance to look into this, Willow. I don't know if this is based on some pre-existing material. I don't know if there was a pre-existing thing called The Man from Toronto that this is based on or not. Aaron yesterday seemed to have a little bit of more background information on, but I can't remember exactly what it was we talked about. But anyway, yeah, there you go. And you're right. Color me surprised too for where the expectations of this film are. All right. An anonymous viewer writes in, recently I broke my leg. Oh, dude, that sucks. And have been depressed. Made me realize how much I hate my job. The depression got so bad I was suicidal. It's been hard, but I'm getting through it. I need to change my life, but I don't know how. So John, I never went to college and thinking of going back. I'm 28 and scared of struggling if I quit my job and go. What would you do? Would you go to college later in life? I don't know what to do. Just need to get over the depression stuff. Well, first of all, let me say a couple very obvious things. Number one, do not, if you recognize you're struggling with depression, do not struggle with it alone. Make sure you talk to somebody. Just mention it to somebody. There are going to be professionals who can help, and that is not a sign of weakness. Getting help is not a sign of weakness. Whoever tells you it is, tell them to go right the fuck off. It is not a sign of weakness. It means you've got the guts and the strength that you're going to step up and do something about a situation that you're in. And so I really, really do encourage you to make sure you talk to somebody. Secondly, what would I do? Let's be clear. I am no expert in how people should manage their own lives, all right? I am no expert on how people should manage their own lives. What I will tell you is what I have done, okay? And maybe it was smart, maybe it wasn't smart. I will just tell you what I have done, all right? So I did Bible college and stuff like that when I was younger, but then when I moved on from that, I didn't go back to college again to get any kind of other degree. Like I just kind of, I started working in web design, and then I got involved in the visual effects industry. I started working with a small company where we were doing visual effects for big Hollywood movies, which is crazy, doing it from a little town, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Canada. And I was able to be relatively successful at that, and I was able to do well for myself and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I was almost 30 that I decided to go back to school again. And I wasn't quite there, but I was almost 30 when I decided to go back to school again and decided to go and study law. And that's what I did. And it was tricky. I mean, listen, whenever you do anything, it's tricky. And you do got to figure out a way to navigate the trickiness of it. But listen, doing anything that gives you more options later is always a good thing. It's the same philosophy and strategy I bring to my video games. Like when I'm playing a game, I'll try to make decisions now that give me more options or more advantages later rather than taking short, quick benefits right now. I will usually do the things that lay the groundwork for me to have more benefits later. And I bring that kind of same philosophy to life. So I went back to school and it was great. And I did get employed after it. Now, obviously I've changed professions, but even then my schooling that I had when I went back to school have benefited me greatly, even though I'm not in that field anymore. So I'm of the kind of mentality, and there are arguments to be made against this. And again, don't take my word as the word of an expert here. I'm just telling you what I have done. To me, getting more education is never a bad thing. But again, that's just been for me in my life, in my circumstances. You have to make that decision for yourself with trusted people that you know. But I've never really looked at going back to school as a bad thing. But again, that's just me in my situation. You need to figure out that path yourself, but that's my thoughts. And again, dude, do not delay, do not wait, don't put it off. When you're struggling with something, listen, when the arm hurts, you go see a doctor. When the foot hurts, you go see a doctor. When you're feeling super sleepy, you go take a nap. If you feel like you're struggling with depression, please, by all means, make sure you seek out people who, there are things in place to help you with that, man, and go get that help. And just the fact that you're able to talk about it openly, good on you, man. Now go get some help with that. All right, thanks for writing that in, dude. All right, Magic K writes, technically not movie related, but for a good cause, please donate to help the people in China who suffer the coronavirus link. Oh, that's a good one. Go find me, blah, blah, blah. Just be very, very careful. Be very, very careful, Magic K. I'm not saying this one isn't completely legit. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying when things like this happen, a lot of so-called like independent things like GoFundMes, like rather than things through Red Cross or organizations like that, sometimes they turn out to be scams. So I would just say be very, very careful and make sure, because if you're going to send out your money, you want to make sure it's going to something that's actually going to be helping the people and the problem and not going into just somebody's pockets. So just be very, very cautious about that. All right, Travis H. writes, ever heard of the anime One Punch Man? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a parody of the shonen genre, which includes shows like Dragon Ball Z and My Hero Academia. It's about a superhero who can end any fight with one punch and is bored because of it. Highly recommend. My brother-in-law, Ray, watches One Punch Man. As a matter of fact, he was over here one weekend working on stuff, and the whole time he was here working, he had One Punch Man on. He knows it in and out. So, One Punch Man, a guy saves this kid and liked it. So he started training every day, did push-ups every day, and now he's completely invincible. He is absolutely, completely invincible. And the reason they call him One Punch Man is because he ends any fight against any creature, any monster with one punch, which leads him to feeling kind of bored. So that is the basic premise of it. So yes, I have seen a bunch of One Punch Man, and I'm not into a lot of anime, but I did find One Punch Man pretty damn clever, dude. I found it pretty damn clever. All right, Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, all the talk yesterday about sword fights made me put together a list. 5, Rob Roy. Ooh, that's a good one. Rob Roy versus Cunningham. Number 4, Aragon versus the Uruk-hai Army Fellowship. Those are the orcs. 3, The Bride versus Oren. That's the one that Aaron brought up yesterday. 2, Wesley versus Inigo in Princess Bride. That's my favorite. And number 1, the skeleton fight in the old classic stop motion kind of effects at the time. Jason and the Argonauts. That's a good one. You know what's funny? One of our new staff members here that you guys have not met yet, her name's Juliet. Juliet is helping with production of the documentary that we're working on. But anyway, I was driving around with Juliet yesterday, and she was telling me that since she was like 10, she's a sword fighter. She's been taking fencing and sword fighting, knows everything about sword fighting, and she's she's done this, and this in fencing and sword fighting and all that kind of stuff. And we just started talking about sword fighting in movies, and I mentioned it's crazy you bring that up because just today we were talking about sword fighting in movies. There's a lot of good stuff, and that's where I learned. I didn't know this about Juliet before. Her all-time favorite movie is Princess Bride. That's her all-time favorite movie. So that's always a good thing. That fight between Inigo Montoya and Wesley is just still my all-time favorite sword fight scene, not including lightsaber battles, of course. All right, Tiberius writes, John, I recently found your channel. Thank you. Good to have you here, man. I'm a law enforcement officer. Thank you for your service to the community, my friend, who deals with a lot of crap. When I'm able to catch it, your show is a ray of light in the sea of sludge in which I swim. That's some beautifully descriptive language, Tiberius. And in all seriousness, dude, thank you for your service to our communities and doing what you do. And we're really glad you're part of the film fan community. And if our show here can somehow make your day a little bit more manageable as you're serving the community, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that high honor. And dude, thanks for being here and good luck to you and all the stuff that you're doing for our communities, dude. That is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Tiberius also writes and sends in a $50 tip. Thank you, Tiberius. So your question will be answered right now, but it's also going to be answered in its own standalone video a little bit later. So keep your eyes open for that. But let's get to it right now. Tiberius writes, can't describe the excitement when new Star Wars movies were announced in 2012 with the original cast coming back. Was beyond disappointed when Han, Luke, and Leia were not in any scenes together, all three of them at the same time. Does anyone else care? Well, listen, that's always been one of the big debates going on, is the fact that we never got to see the original three back together. You should probably include Chewie in there too, but we never got to see them all together on the screen at the same time. Now look, I'm the type of guy that I believe, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, the story is not there to serve the characters are there to serve the story. And if the story doesn't require the characters to all be together on screen, and actually maybe it works against the story to have all the characters together on screen, well, the story comes first. That's just kind of my attitude, right? So I'm torn a little bit because you say, yeah, but this is Star Wars. This is Han, Luke, and Leia. So at the end of the day, look, 2, 3, 5 years from now, I think there's going to be a lot of us that look back on the new Star Wars films, some very fondly. Like, I love The Force Awakens. Absolutely love that movie. I liked The Last Jedi. I did not like The Rise of Skywalker. I love Rogue One. I quite enjoyed Solo. But you're going to get, a few years from now, a lot of people looking back, some fondly, some not so fondly. But what I think a lot of us, including people like me who have liked the majority of the new Star Wars movies, the majority at any rate, I think there's going to be a lot of us that look back on it and go, there were a number of missed opportunities. There were a number of missed opportunities. The missed opportunity of seeing all the characters back together on screen at the same time. Yeah, it was probably a missed opportunity. The missed opportunity of letting Luke Skywalker wreck shop on some fools, pulling out his lightsaber and taking out a legion of stormtroopers all on his own. That is going to be a missed opportunity. I think that's going to be one of the things even those of us who really did enjoy a lot of the Star Wars movies, I think even those people are going to look back and go, there were some big missed opportunities. And that Tiberius is undoubtedly one of the big missed opportunities. Again, story comes first, but this is Star Wars and that is Han, Luke, and Leia. So yeah, probably a bit of a missed opportunity, buddy. Probably a bit of a missed opportunity. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. And thank you for supporting the channel on that level, dude. We really appreciate it. And again, we will answer this as well in its own standalone question in the upcoming week or two. All right. Pelican Mike writes, John, it may be too early to answer this, but which do you think is better, Jojo Rabbit or Life is Beautiful? I know Life is Beautiful is one of your favorite movies, but is Jojo at the top level for you yet? I love them both. Life is Beautiful. Listen, it's been a long, long time since any movie has been able to have the impact on me that Roberto Benigni's masterpiece, Life is Beautiful, had on me. It is one of the most perfectly done movies I have ever seen, with levity and horror and all that kind of stuff all wrapped into one. It is one of the most profoundly impactful movies I've ever seen. Jojo Rabbit is in that league, but I don't quite have it at the level of Life is Beautiful. Certainly marvelous. Certainly my favorite film of the year. Jojo Rabbit is. But to me, Life is Beautiful is still right up there. It's in my top 10 favorite films of all time. It is just a remarkable piece of cinema, and it's awesome that I can even mention Jojo Rabbit in the same phrasing of it, but I still do give Life is Beautiful the slight edge. All right, Hector Jeter writes, I'd like to give a shout out to my best friends, Nerd Guy, Steph, Ron, Simple, Zach, Faye, Vin, aka Ching Chang, Connor, the Senate, and the rest of the John Campea Discord members. No matter how much they try, they will never steal my ranking as number one. Well, thank you for shouting that out. And just so you know, we do, for those of people who are Patreon supporters of the channel, we do have a Discord server where a couple times a week I go over. By the way, we're doing that today. For those of you who are there, we're going to be doing a post show, a John Campea Show post show chat over in the Discord server. If you are a Patreon supporter, make sure you come on over and join the post show chat. We just chat for like 15, 20 minutes about the things we talked about on the show today. So come on over and join us if you'd like. Thank you for putting that in there, Hector. All right. Luke1234 writes, whose last name origin was worse, Han Solo or Rey Skywalker? I don't know. They were both bad. I mean, look, I quite enjoy the Solo movie I thought was quite good. I still think it was completely unnecessary and that no film needed to be done, but I still don't think it was a wise idea to even make that movie. But they made it, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a good, fun space action adventure film. I really did dig it. That said, yeah, that whole thing about how he got his last name was dumb. So dumb. Han Solo. Oh, come on. That was stupid. The Rey Skywalker thing is even worse. Listen, this is the thing that gets me. And Ann and I talked about Susan White tonight. Okay, so let me get this straight. So the whole message of the movie about Leia to her is don't be ashamed or afraid of who you are, Rey. Embrace who you are. And what does she do as soon as the movie's over? Throws away her identity and takes on somebody else's identity. Now, don't get me wrong. I would rather go through the universe with the name Skywalker than I would with the name Palpatine. But everything else she's been told throughout the whole movie is embrace who you are. Don't be afraid of who you are. Who you are, who you are, who you are. Love it. Embrace it. Hug it. Snuggle up with who you are. And then the very first thing she does when the movie ends is changes the last name. I just thought that was kind of weird. Anyway, Benny95 writes, the shirt you wore on yesterday's show, blue, white, checkered, was the same style color shirt I wore to my modeling gig the other day. Great taste, my dude. Yeah, I try not to wear patterned shirts because sometimes cameras have a weird thing with like plaid or striped or checkered shirts like that. But I found these cameras actually deal really well with them and they don't create these weird distortions on the screen in the image. So I got kind of lucky on that. So I don't normally wear shirts like that, but I do like that shirt quite a bit. Thank you, Benny, for the kind words, especially since I have absolutely zero fashion sense. All right, Donnie writes, Scorsese said his Sinatra biopic with Leo is officially dead after 12 years. Love to have seen another singing and dancing Leo. I have not heard that. I did not. Maybe I just haven't had my ear to the ground enough, but I have not heard that they officially pulled the plug on that. That's a shame if they did. Listen, but I always thought, going back years, like all the way back to the AMC days, I've always thought that such a project would be very tricky to do. And I think almost like no matter which approach you took with it, there were probably going to be a lot of people that would be unhappy with it. But that I had not heard that, Donnie, but thank you for putting that on. I got to go read up on that and read more about what his rationale behind that is. But it's too bad. That's too bad. All right, Benny95 writes, hey, John, I introduced my family to Mr. Rogers thanks to your show. My mom cried a lot after the documentary, and the movie with Tom Hanks was so great. Surprised to see it's not in any top 10 list. It was touching and uplifting, something we don't get a lot of today. That scene when Hank speaks to Reese's character in the diner to think of those who've loved us was so powerful. I closed my eyes for 10 seconds. When I felt to open them, I saw Hanks Rogers looking at me, looking to the audience and to the world. So powerful. Yeah, the movie is great. The movie is great. But I think, Benny, that goes back again to what we've been talking about how I think a lot of us don't really appreciate just how good the movies of 2019 have been. Because you've got a movie like Won't You Be My Neighbor, the one with Tom Hanks, that is so good and so beautiful, and it's on hardly anybody's top 10 lists, including mine, by the way. And I'm a big Tom Hanks and Mr. Rogers guy, and it's not in my top 10 list. That is not a negative commentary on the movie. That is a crazy commentary on how good the movies of 2019 have been. And don't even get me started about the documentary. I mean, the documentary is one of the best documentaries I've seen in my entire life. You know, because I often say the documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor, I always say this: great movies will change the way you see the world. Great movies will make the way you will change the way you see the world. But the truly rare, special movie will change the way you see yourself. A great movie, by extension, will make you want to change the world. But the truly elite, special movie will make you want to change you. And that's what that documentary did for me. And I think for a lot of people, when I come out of that documentary, it doesn't just change the way I see the world, it changes the way you see yourself. And it makes you want, I can speak for myself as a guy, it makes you want to be a better man. Even some of the best movies don't do that. That Mr. Rogers documentary was so rare in the fact that it's one of those very, very rare things that make you walk in and go, I want to be a better man. Another movie that kind of conveys that message is Saving Private Ryan, right? It's just like, it makes you want to earn every day you get, you know? Something about the Mr. Rogers thing that does this. Anyway, Benny, introducing people to Mr. Rogers, never a bad thing, my friend. Well done. All right. Dan V900 writes, what is concerning about Birds of Prey for me is the portrayal of Cassandra Cain. She is mute, illiterate, and a trained assassin before learning how to communicate. She simply isn't the character in the movie from the trailers, and it seems to be ableist. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Well, listen, again, we as fans, especially when it's not the super iconic characters like your Batman or your Spider-Man or your Superman or characters like that, you just got to understand the reality is I guarantee you 99% of the people going to the movies this weekend have never heard the name Cassandra Cain. They've never heard the name. They don't care. And this is the movie. It's not the comic books. Now, admittedly, and maybe I shouldn't, but I think there are different rules and different guiding principles when you're talking about the truly iconic characters that everybody does know. Your Wolverines, your Superman, your Wonder Womans, things like that. But then the reality is, while some people who know the comics and things like that will know certain things about these characters, the fact of the matter is most people don't. And this gets me in trouble sometimes, but to me it's true. The number one job of the filmmaker is not to be as true as possible to the source material. The number one job of the filmmaker is to make the best movie possible. That's the number one job. Make the best movie possible. And if as a filmmaker you feel like you need to do different things with a character, and it's not one of those super iconic characters that nobody would even know you're taking liberties. Listen, if most of the audience if you're taking liberties with a character, and most of the audience doesn't even know you're taking liberties with the character, are you really taking liberties with the character? It goes back to the old, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear? I mean, if you're making changes to a character, but nobody in the audience even knows you're making changes to the character because they don't know the character at all, then are you really making changes to the character? I don't know. I think a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on that, but let's just see, Dan. Let's just go into this movie. Again, I still have some skepticism about the Harley Quinn movie, but my skepticism has been influenced positively by all these positive things we're hearing about the movie. So let's just go into this movie. Let's see how it does. And then let's not worry too much about our concerns until after we see the movie, and we'll see what they do. But it's going to be interesting, Dan. It's going to be interesting. All right, Captain Confidence Entertainment writes, rhythm section is a sloppy story, miscast lead, no bueno. That's too bad. I've heard some good things about it, but I have not seen it yet myself. I do really like Blake Lively, so I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I haven't seen it yet myself. Thank you for your quick review on that, man. Alex Pitt writes, hey, John, I'm glad to hear that Birds of Prey reactions are good, but I'm just curious. How can the full review embargo not be lifted until the 5th of February when there are fan screenings starting on the 4th? Does this point to them lifting it early? Probably yes. Yeah, because here's the thing. If you have public screenings for a movie, then the review embargo's out the window. Review embargo's out the window. Like, it's not reasonable to ask film critics to sit on their reviews when it's going to be playing in like 50 theaters across the country and thousands upon thousands of fans are getting to go buy tickets and go see it. They're public screenings. I don't know. So I believe, remember, this was a situation like we had with Wonder Woman. When Wonder Woman was coming out, they had a very, very late embargo date. And then as they got closer, they moved the embargo date way up to give film critics a lot more time to put their reviews out. I suggested on the show the other day that we may see that happen with Birds of Prey. So I won't be surprised, Alex, at all. I believe we are going to see them lift this embargo earlier. I do. I think we're going to see them lift this embargo earlier, and probably before those screenings happen on the 4th. So I don't know that. No insider information, but that's just my guess right now. Okay, next up, Laugh Warehouse writes, my top 10 of 2019. Number 10, The Lighthouse. Number 9, Ford v Ferrari. Number 8, Booksmart. Number 7, Marriage Story. Number 6, Joker. Number 5, Parasite. Number 4, Toy Story 4. Number 3, 1917. Number 2, Jojo Rabbit. And number 1, Avengers Endgame. Tell you what, Laugh Warehouse, first of all, great films on your list, brother. Great films on your list. I had a lot of people when I did my top 10 list, which if you watched me for any period of time, and you've heard me talking about top 10 lists, if you have been listening to me, you weren't surprised to hear that I didn't have Endgame in my top 10 list. But I got a lot of people wrote to me saying, you don't have Endgame in your top 10 of the year. I just don't. And I liked Endgame. You guys know I liked Endgame. I liked it very much. But I also feel like the movie had a lot of problems. So overall, super enjoyable film that I really liked. But I just saw too many other films that were just superior to it. But it all depends on what it is you look at. And again, it's all subjective. So I looked at it and it's like great fun film, one of the positive films of 2019, not in my top 10 list. But you looked at it, not only is it in your top 10 list, brother, you got it number 1. And that's the beautiful thing about the subjectivity film. Some great films on your list there, man. All right. Thought Farm writes, the Crow reboot producers. We've searched high and low for the perfect actor to fill the role of the Crow, and after months of research, we decided on Brandon Lee after James Dean. You know, someone's thinking it. So what, if you don't know what Thought Farm is talking about, remember, there's that movie, there's that studio that's making this movie with a digital James Dean. It's like no other actor can play this role but James Dean, but it's not James Dean. It's just something you're making to look like James Dean, but it's not James Dean. Anyway, that stupid thing. Oh my God. I don't know what would happen because Brandon Lee in The Crow has a lot of fans. And I don't know if those fans would be ecstatic to hear that or if they would be outraged and take to the streets with pitchforks and torches. I'm not really sure which one it would be, but you're probably right, dude. Somebody's thinking it. Somebody's absolutely thinking it. Well said. All right. Ivan Jones writes, how do you get invited to screenings? It's simple. Studios invite you. That's it. There's no form you go and fill out, blah, blah, blah. If you make a presence for yourself, become large enough and influential enough, blah, 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 then the studios will add you to their invitation list. There's no secret phone number you call and you get added to press screening lists. There's no anything like that. It's just that they just started calling me years ago. They just started adding me to their mailing lists and inviting me to these things. So it's just that simple and that hard and just that simple. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, the long, highly anticipated arrival of Sonic the Hedgehog movie will finally be with us in 2 weeks. And one must ask, is this a good Valentine's Day movie to take your lady to? Don't worry, it's not on my radar. I'm just asking for a friend. I have no idea. Look, this movie looks stupid as fuck. to be honest with you. It always has looked stupid as fuck. It looked stupid as fuck when they had the original design of the character, hasn't changed when they changed the design of him. It's just that the character looks a little bit better, but it's still the same movie. That's the thing. It's still the exact same movie. It's just that the character looks a little bit different. Practically still the same, but a little bit different. But it's the exact same movie that it was before. It still looks dumb as hell. But you know what? Here's the thing. I thought the Harley Quinn animated show also looked dumb as hell. I had no interest in that movie. It looked stupid to me. And the trailer certainly did nothing to me, and it looked stupid. But hey, then I watched it and I loved it. That's why you got to leave your expectations at the door. I have no interest in this Sonic movie. I think it looks stupid as hell. But if for whatever reason I do end up going to go see it, you got to do the same thing that I did with the Harley Quinn animated show. Take your expectations, leave them at the door, just go in and evaluate it on its own merits. And maybe, like sometimes happens, you get pleasantly surprised. And maybe that'll be the case with Sonic. But I have no desire to see it. So if you're asking me if it's a good Valentine's Day movie, the answer is no. But who knows? Maybe I watch it and it ends up being in my top 10 of 2020. You never know. All right, Jaron Morris writes, thoughts on one of my favorite fighters, Valentine. Oh, dude, she's a beast. Her and Nunez fought twice. I gave the second fight to I have almost as much of a hard time with her last name as Nurmagomedov, Shevchenko, and I would love to see a trilogy fight. Thoughts? Oh yeah, she's a beast, dude. She's an animal. Like, she is as tough as they come. And it's kind of like the situation of when Tiger Woods was on his roll in golf, like when he was like the king of the hill, there were some other world-class golfers that could have gone down as some of the greatest all-time golfers, but because they were playing in the same era as Tiger Woods, there'll be footnotes in history, unfortunately, because they were really, really good. But it's just that Tiger Woods was there and winning everything. Let me listen. What is her next fight? Give me a second here. Where are we at here? Valentina. Let me just see when her next fight is. I don't know if they've got. Another. Her next one. I'm trying to see when if she's got. I thought I heard she had another fight scheduled. Anyway, total beast. But Amanda Nunes is like on another level. But when you watch the two of them fight, Amanda Nunes does not, the lioness, she does not look invincible. And that's really the only time she don't look invincible is when she's fighting Valentina. So you're damn right, dude. I'd totally be down. I would totally be down for a trilogy fight. Anyway, Jaron Morris also writes, hey, John, I want to see something terrifying. Type in Khabib and send me message. It's a 13-second video of Khabib telling Connor for message. I don't know that I understand at all what you're writing. Let me try this again. Want to see something terrifying? Type in Khabib, send me message. It's a 13-second video of Khabib telling Connor for message and location right after that whole bus incident. And oh my God, I would hate to have Khabib pissed off and looking for me. Listen, Khabib, that's all we refer to him as Khabib, but Nurmagomedov, I always mispronounce his last name, Nurmagomedov, he is the scariest person on the planet. That's just it. You can keep your John Bones Joneses and you can keep your whoever else you want to. The baddest man on the planet is Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's the baddest man on the planet. Period. End of statement. No questions asked. Pound for pound, this kid wrestled bears. He literally wrestles bears. He's just a different kind of animal. Khabib is just a different kind of creature. Now look, anybody can be beat. One lucky punch and anybody can beat anybody. So like Khabib's fighting Tony Ferguson coming up, and Tony Ferguson is a bad man. He's a bad man. And you know what? You just get a lucky crack on the head. You never know. Anything can happen. But that aside, the lucky punch aside, I don't see how anybody beats Khabib. He's got He actually stood and traded with Conor McGregor, who's one of the best strikers in MMA, and Khabib was able to stand and strike with him. He is the most feared grappler in MMA because as soon as Khabib does this to you, you might as well just tap out because you're done. You're done. He can take big shots because we've seen some people land big shots on him and he just walks right through it like a freaking Russian Terminator. I mean, he's just on another level. And so I cannot, but yeah, no, dude, I would rather Superman be pissed off and looking for me than Khabib Nurmagomedov. I would much rather Superman be pissed off at me than that dude. And I will have to look up that video. All right. Clever to Swear writes, my least favorite movie / TV cliche is you don't have the guts to pull the trigger. I agree. It's like, how much guts does it take? Boom, there, you're dead. If I'm a coward, then I want to pull the trigger because then I don't have to worry about you. I've always agreed that is the lamest line. Said by every villain with a gun to their head. It's trite and would entice anyone to shoot. What's your least favorite cliche? Well, I've always talked about, and that is a good one, Clever to Swear. I've always hated that one, but I've talked about this one before. The biggest cliche to me in movies that is I've seen in every TV show and movie and has always driven me nuts is the whole, don't tell me now, tell me at midnight at death peak. What I mean by that is this. We've seen this in so many movies and television. The hero's trying to figure out a case or a problem or a mystery of some sorts. And there's something very important they don't know. Inevitably, a B-level character will call the hero and say, I just found out something super important. To which the hero says, really? What is it? And then character B obviously says, not over the phone, or not right now, or not over the walkie-talkie. Meet me at midnight at death peak. Or something, meet me somewhere, sometime. But as soon as character B says to the hero, not now, I can't tell you right now, meet me somewhere and I'll tell you there, which I've never understood that logic. But whenever that happens in a movie or a TV show, you know exactly what's about to happen. Character B is dead. You know it. I know. Everybody knows it. As soon as they go, not over the phone, meet me wherever, you know that character's going to die before the hero ever gets there to meet them, right? That is the most painful, stupid, dumb. If I was on a phone and somebody said, John, I know who the killer is. Really? Who? Not now. No, shut the fuck. Just tell me right now. Don't tell me an hour from. Tell me right now. Just tell me. No, I need to tell you in person. No, you don't. Just tell me right now. It's pretty important information. Why don't you just tell me that? Yeah, that to me, most annoying cliche we see in movies. Absolutely. All right, Harry Mudd writes, I've always loved The Mummy from 1999. I like that movie too, man. Even when it was unpopular to do so. I even like the sequel. The third movie wasn't that good, though. I have a level... Listen, again, there was diminishing returns with the sequels. Yes, but I still had fun with all of them, particularly the first one. That first one with Brendan Fraser, a lot of fun. Still this day, a lot of fun. And I even think there is redemptive qualities of the other ones. Again, diminishing returns, but still. But I'm with you, Harry. I really do enjoy that first one still. And when I'm flipping through on TBS or something, I see it's on, I'll stop and watch it for a bit. I always had a lot of fun with those. All right. Murray Reich writes, looking forward to Super Bowl Sunday. Going to be hopefully a good game. Who you got? I got the 49ers. I'm very reluctantly going to go 49ers. If for no other reason than because if there's any defense that's going to stop Patrick Mahomes, it'll probably be the 49ers defense. Probably. So, yeah, I'm going to lean 49ers, but I would not put any money on it. I mean, Mahomes on the Kansas City Chiefs firing on all cylinders is as close to unstoppable as anything we've seen in the NFL for the last few years. They're really dangerous. The only way to really beat them is to beat them in a track race, which is just outscore them. Just because you're not going to keep the Kansas City Chiefs to under 14 points, right? So you're just going to have to rely that your offense has a bigger gap over Kansas City's defense than Kansas City's offense has over San Francisco's defense. And I just think the gap between Kansas City's offense and San Francisco's defense is a smaller gap than the gap between San Francisco's offense and Kansas City's defense. So, but it's going to be close, man. I think we are in for a hell of a game. All right. Harry Mudd writes, Picard is already getting really good. I still have not watched episode 2 yet. I'm going to do that today, but I really did enjoy episode 1 quite a bit, so I'm looking forward to watching the second one. Harry also writes, Diggle as Green Lantern. Could that work? I don't know. I honestly don't think so. And I don't even know if they really actually have any plans or if they just made that a cool little Easter egg at the end, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Harry also writes, 15 years since Jerry Goldsmith passed away. Time flies. Is that the Star Trek music guy? Was that the Star Trek composer? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that's who you're talking about, but I'm a little embarrassed. I can't say I remember completely. Anyway, Robert Perez writes, do the Crow with a female lead. I love Aaron. I vote Aaron. Aaron would be great in the Crow. I know they're still going to try to get it done. I know they're going to try to keep rolling with that, but I just don't even know if this thing's ever going to happen. Harry writes, watched Aaron's appearance on 911 Lone Star. That scene was hilarious. I still haven't seen it, because I was out the night that it aired, so I haven't had a chance to go back and watch her episode of that yet. I know she flew out there for a week to shoot a bunch of stuff for the show, but I have not seen her stuff on that yet. I have not seen, so I got to watch that soon, but I'm glad you did, Harry. I know Aaron would be really happy to hear that you did as well. All right, Captain Chicken Pants writes, there's something about movies of today for me, particularly summer blockbusters, that I just never feel compelled to rewatch, like older films from the 80s, 90s, which I usually rewatch yearly. I can't relate with you on that one, because I am very much I love rewatching movies that I like. You know, some people say to me, like, I just went back to watch The Gentleman again last night. Ann and I went to go watch The Gentleman again. I love this movie. Oh my God, I love this movie. When Downton Abbey girl says, there's fuckery afoot, one of the greatest lines in all of cinema of the last few years. Anyway, I love I love going back and watching movies that I enjoyed. So, yeah, even by today's standards, there's still a lot of movies that I will go back and rewatch. So so I can't relate with you on that one, but I'm sure you're not alone in that. Harry Mudd writes, Kevin J. O'Connor is one hell of an actor. He was so hilarious in as Benny in The Mummy. Is he the guy who was also in Spartacus? Let me just double check here. I think he was the guy who was also in Spartacus, so I'm not sure here. So hold on a second. Let me look it up. Kevin J. Connor. Oh no, it is not the guy who the guy I was thinking of. What else was he in? Oh, this guy, he was also in Deep Rising. I'm not really familiar with him all that much. The guy I was thinking of off the top of my head was it John Hannah that I was thinking of from Spartacus? Yes, it was John Hannah, the guy who owned the Doctoria. I remember. Oh God, I love him. I love that dude. And he was even in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit, John Hannah. But I'm not really familiar with Kevin J. O'Connor's work. Hector Jeter writes, hey, John, what's your thoughts on the hit foreign film Rochelle? It's about a young girl's strange erotic journey from Milan to Minsk. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest with you. Wait a minute. I may have said that prematurely. Hold on a second. Rochelle. I am not. Nope, that's not what I was thinking of. No, I am not familiar with it. So yeah, there's that. All right, Harry Mudd writes, one day, lad, all this will be yours. It sounds like a movie. That sounds like a movie I just saw, and I cannot remember off the top of my head what it is. Harry Mudd also writes, the death of Logan still gets me. Oh, it's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful ending to one of the most beautiful movies, of a comic book movie or otherwise. Logan is simply one of the best films, I believe, of the decade. I'm not saying it's the best film of the decade, but I honestly believe Logan is one of the best films of the decade. I certainly thought it was the best film of the year in 2017. I thought it was the best movie of the year. But, is what it is. And that was a great scene. Harry Mudd also writes, Q and the Infinity Glove would be a bad combination. He loves to snap his fingers all the time. Well, this is the thing about Q. The Infinity Glove is nothing to Q. Q would look at the Infinity Glove and goes, pshaw. Q can do anything. Q can already snap his fingers and snap humanity out of existence if he wanted to, right? So the Infinity Gauntlet is actually useless paperweight to the Q. To the Q, man, it's nothing. All right. Harry Mudd also writes, Jovito Sonir, the poison's still fresh. 3 days. They're following us. It's from Indiana Jones, that original line. By the way, never gets tired. That opening to Indiana Jones, the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, never gets tired. Still, when you see just the back of Indy's head and you're putting up, such a great opening. All right. B. Ryan writes, DC will never reach 2 billion once, let alone twice. Well, says who? Says who? You know, there are a lot of people that are saying for a while after Justice League only made like 600 million, Justice League, that they'll never make $1 billion. Guess what? They did. Twice. So this whole thing that they'll never get it to $2 billion film, that is very short-sighted to say. Listen, I'm not predicting they will in the next couple of years. I'm not saying that at all. But listen, they just did a standalone Aquaman movie that made $1 billion. Nobody saw that coming. Certainly, least of all me. Joker, the movie that said, you can't do a Joker movie without Batman. There's no way. Guess what? Made $1 billion. So I'd be very careful about this whole, they could never do it twice. And besides, that's history. We're talking right now. Because guess what? There's no MCU movie on the horizon that's got $2 billion potential either. So I'm not talking history. I'm talking right now. Where are things? How do things stand right now? I don't care that the Green Bay Packers have won 7 or 8 Super Bowls, however many they've won. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens are a better team than they are right now. So that's what we're talking about right now. And right now, even now, I wouldn't say that they can't do a $2 billion film. If they get if they get this thing in motion and they get the momentum going, they could. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying they could. Megapodtastic writes, with the recent Viacom Nick/Beverly Hills Cop 4 deals with Netflix and Netflix's financial troubles, could a Netflix/CBS all-access merger be in the cards? No, CBS is CBS. They are not going to be merging with Netflix. I don't see that happening at all in the least. No connection between the two. Listen, lots of studios, even with their own divisions, will create content sometimes that get released through other distribution avenues. It's not a unique thing. It has happened and will continue to happen. So no, I don't see any sort of Netflix or CBS merger ever happening. Again, I don't know that. I'm not speaking to the execs at Netflix and CBS, so anything is possible. But would I predict it? No, I certainly wouldn't. All right, Ben Rayner writes, how I look at it is, with the end of Endgame, it's kind of wipes off the chessboard and MCU is starting from scratch, and actually with Joker, and if Harley is good, I would say DC is a leg up on MCU in my opinion, especially with Oscar nomination, again, in my opinion. You know, it also partially depends on how is Black Widow received. You know, is Black Widow the next Thor: The Dark World? Or is Black Widow the next, Doctor Strange? Is it great? Is it okay? Is it bad? I mean, that'll have a lot into it too. It's just that I think you're right. I liked your analogy there, Ben. With Endgame done, I just feel like there's a lot of... Look, I'm just telling you, as somebody who observes it and interacts with film fans every day, I have felt a deflation in the MCU enthusiasm. I'm not saying it's gone. Obviously, it's not gone. Obviously, there's still excitement for the MCU. Obviously. I'm just saying this massive fevered pitch of enthusiasm that we've had for the MCU, particularly over the last couple of years, has been, I feel like, significantly deflated now that Endgame's done. In the meantime, DC has been rolling out solid film after solid film after solid film. And if Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman are as good as maybe they are, then that just continues. It needs to alter our perception of how we see things right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right, K Major writes, holy crap, Dennis! Hey, John, I know it's so great to have Dennis on today. I just love hanging out with Dennis, but being able to sit down and talk with Dennis, because Dennis, to me, he is just such a great analytical thinker and a very even-keeled, not like me at all. A very even-keeled communicator, a very analytical thinker. I just love hearing Dennis talk movies. I love hearing Dennis Zen talk movies. Anyway, Suthius writes, good to see the Zen talking with you on the show. Again, nobody had more fun with that than me. Believe me, Suthius. Thanks for saying that. Lowell writes, as you can see, I'm a brother, can't speak for anyone, but I thought RDJ's Tropic Thunder performance was genius and wouldn't be offended if it happened again. Also, watch Lake Mungo last night. WTF. Again, great example of people making recommendations that other people watching the show then take and watch. And somebody brought up Lake Mungo last night, and you clearly took it to heart. You went and watched it, and apparently I'm hearing great things about it. So what Lowell is talking about is the topic came up yesterday about could Robert Downey Jr. do what he did in Tropic Thunder today? Because I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you couldn't do that today. But I'm like, wait a minute. No, Tropic Thunder wasn't all that long ago. And Tropic Thunder wasn't Robert Downey Jr. doing an idiotic blackface and going and being that. No. That was the joke. The joke was in the movie, he was a white actor doing blackface, and the ridicule and the mockery and the fun they made of it. And that was the joke. And I think that's why everybody embraced it, because it was done the right way. Everybody can laugh at themselves when it's done the right way. And if it's done, I think they did. I think that was the joke. And I think if that were to come out today and done exactly the same way, the right way, I think people would embrace it. I could be wrong. And you could be wrong, Lowell. I mean, maybe we are wrong, but I kind of feel like people would still embrace it. But again, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. That's just the way I look at it. I'm sure other people look at it differently, and it is what it is. All right. Terry Giordano writes. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Lowell. Terry writes, hey, John, did you see the Star Wars Underworld test footage leak? Do you think Disney leaked intentionally to see if fans liked it or not? Have a great day. No, didn't watch it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm actively avoiding it. Not that. It's just I haven't gotten around to watching it because it's not important. But I'll probably check it out. I doubt Disney. I don't think Disney plays the same game that Fox used to play and stuff like that. I don't think they accidentally leak something to gauge interest. I don't think so. It's possible, though. Not impossible, but something that could have happened. All right. Danny J sends in a $50 tip. Thank you for sending that in, Danny, and supporting the channel on that level. Of course, I'm going to answer your question right now, but then we're also going to answer your question in its own standalone video in the following week or so. So keep your eyes open for that. All right. Danny writes, hey, John. Hello, Danny. I've been a fan of the show for years. Oh, thank you so much, man. I started watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. Always a good thing to do. I forgot how great the score was. One of my absolute favorites. With that being said, what are some of your favorite scores? I personally love Lord of the Rings, the Dark Knight trilogy, and Remember the Titans. Thanks. I'm not nearly as much of a music guy as a lot of other people are. I'm not nearly as much of a music guy as a lot of other people are. But the one I always do go back to, I mean, obviously the greatest music ever for a movie is Star Wars. I mean, between the main theme, the Imperial March, and all that kind of stuff. And this is just what John Williams does is crazy good. But the music in Lord of the Rings, what Shore did with the score in Lord of the Rings, where the music in every single scene becomes a part of the fabric and the DNA of every single scene. That I can hear any piece of music from that, and I could tell you exactly when that music happens in the movie, because it is so interwoven with the fabric of the film itself. So while the greatest soundtrack ever to me is still Star Wars, I mean, as a score that is so integrated on a DNA level with its movie is Lord of the Rings. Dark Knight's good. I think there are a lot of others that are superior. But again, I'm not a big music guy. I don't usually pay a lot of attention to score. But when I do think of score, Danny, I think of Shore's incredible work on the Lord of the Rings. I mean, even now, today, because the imagery and the music of the scenes are so closely connected in my own head, that even now when I go somewhere that's got grassy fields and hills and it looks like a hobbit hole could be right over there, all I hear is that music of the Shire. Da 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 da, with the flute and everything. Do 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 do. Like, I just see that because when I see an image that's similar to Lord of the Rings, the music comes rushing into my head. That's how closely connected it is. And that's why I definitely go Lord of the Rings on that one, Danny. I really do. And enjoy your rewatching Lord of the Rings. And again, Danny, thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, man. We really appreciate it around here. All right. Next up, Jesse writes, I find Linda's phrasing weird. It sounds to me like she's saying they just kept pulling her back in, but she hasn't been in these movies since T2. But she just did one. She just did one. And for her to say, I now want out, I'm looking forward to never coming back, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we go back to her words. It should definitely not be such a high financial venture, but I would be quite happy to never return. So no, I'm not hopeful because I would really love to be done. Listen, the making a film, she's on set for months. And then there's all the circus that comes after it, the promotional tours and all that kind of work on it. And then you star in a movie and then you start hearing everybody crapping on the movie. That's not a positive. That's not a fun experience. So she's just like, you know what? Done. I'm more than happy to never do this again. Thank you very much. So it is weird. I don't love that she said it, to be honest, especially with it just coming out on home video and they're trying to promote the film. And I don't love that she said it. I'm not going to lie. I don't love that she said it. But it's certainly something. All right. Jason writes, hey, John and Dennis, a movie I was really surprised by last year was Alita Battle Angel. The movie did not get nominated for VFX, which I thought were really quite good. Would you have nominated this movie? Which movie gets the boot from the category? 1 of 2, and then 2 of 2. Also, since James Cameron is working with Disney on Avatar, do you think they will allow him to make more Alita Battle Angel movies? Well, first of all, I mean, James Cameron didn't make the Alita Battle Angel movie. He let somebody else do that. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember who got nominated for Academy Awards for visual effects that year. I don't have that information off the top of my head. Let me see here. Oscar 2019 Oscar nominations. Visual effects. Let me see what it comes up with here. Okay, so the nominees were for the 2019 Academy Awards, which were in February, was Solo: A Star Wars Story, Ready Player One, First Man, Christopher Robin, Avengers: Infinity War. Or was Alita this year? When did Alita Battle Angel come out? Oh no, Alita Battle Angel got pushed to January. That's right. Hold on a second. Battle Angel release date, because it came out in 2000. That's right. It was originally supposed to come out in 2018, ended up coming out in 2019. So what are the visual effects nominees 2020? What are they? Anyway, okay, so it's Rise of Skywalker, Endgame, 1917, The Lion King, The Irishman. I would bump 1917. 1917, clearly a vastly superior movie. Obviously a vastly, vastly superior movie. But I think the visual effects, while great in 1917, were not as good as Alita Battle Angels. Lion King's visual effects were better. Rise of Skywalker's visual effects were better. Endgame's visual effects were better. Irishman was very revolutionary in what they were doing, so you're not going to bump that off. But I think I would bump out 1917, even though it is an infinitely better movie. That's not the category, though. The category is just visual effects. I probably would have given Alita a spot on there for instead of 1917. But I also have no complaints. The visual effects in 1917 are so perfectly integrated into the movie that I don't have a complaint that it got nominated, but I might have made room for Alita Battle Angel I might have made room for it by bumping out 1917. But again, there's good arguments to be made either way. All right. Sharzy writes, "Hey John, I'm excited for Dune. Can I hear your thoughts?" Oh, dude, we've been talking about Dune a long time on this show. I'm very, very excited for it. You got this incredible source material. You got an incredible director in Denis Villeneuve. You got an incredible cast coming together, being led by who I think is going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis and Timothée Chalamet. There's just nothing to not be excited about this movie, so I'm super stoked for it. Super stoked for it. All right, let's see here. Majestical writes, "You can't deny Ray Ora's sweet Bree / Ahsoka artwork." That's true. He does. I remember that was one of the best pieces of art he ever did. And Ray, who is my brother-in-law, he does all the graphic thumbnail work that we have. He's so good. And that is very much actually one of his best pieces. All right, Light Wings writes, "Some hidden gems, even though Ahsoka's a stupid dumbass character, in my opinion. And there are those of you who love her, and that's great. I'm not trying to yuck on your name. I just think it's an idiotic character." Light Wings writes, some hidden gems / movies to revisit. Brick's great. The Guest, Gattaca, yeah. About Time, Stardust, Serenity, 10 Things I Hate About You. Well, yeah, Serenity in 2005 is just one of the best pure sci-fi movies I've seen in a long time. But Stardust. Only The Princess Bride is Princess Bride. Don't get me wrong. But there is no other movie that can call themselves, I believe, the new Princess Bride like Stardust can. Stardust is so good. Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ricky Gervais, but three of the main stars of the film, I should say. Claire Danes is marvelous in it. You got Daredevil, Charlie Cox is the star of the film. You got Superman, Henry Cavill is in the film. It is a magical, wonderful, delightful, fantastic movie. I love Stardust so much. Again, Princess Bride is better, but Stardust is the new Princess Bride to me. So anyway, great list, Light Wings. Great list. All right. We keep moving here. We're running out of time. Film Corvelli writes, "Dennis, sup dude?" Of course, he's not here right now, but it was great to have him here, wasn't it? Saw Terminator Dark Fate, was much better than I anticipated, and Mackenzie Davis was really good in that movie, actually. That was a badass and the best part of the film, in my opinion. What did you all think of it? I liked it. It did not live up to its potential. It was not as good as it could have been. But at the end of the day, I liked the film. I got a kick out of it. Again, it's a very low bar, but I agree with Dennis. I think it is the best Terminator movie since Terminator 2. And again, that's not a high bar because there hasn't been a lot of greatness in the Terminator franchise since Terminator 2. But yeah, it certainly had its flaws. Certainly had its drawbacks and all that kind of stuff, but I really did like Mackenzie Davis in it, Phil. I really did. So, yeah, it was better than I thought. Let me rephrase. It was better than I feared it would be. It was better than I feared it would be. So, I got a kick out of it. All right, Mike T54 writes, "Hey, John, got out of work early, so I actually get to see you live today. That's awesome. I'm glad you're able to be here today, Mike. I don't know how much of a baseball fan you are. Not much at all, as a matter of fact. But what's your thoughts on the whole Astros cheating scandal that cost 3 managers' jobs?" It's, look, I'm not a big baseball fan. I don't follow baseball. I mean, obviously, when the Toronto Blue Jays are in contention, I'll get a little put on my Canadian hat and start following it a bit. And I'll watch like World Series because I think there's good drama there. But not a big baseball fan. I'll be honest with you. I think I understood they were using electronics and technology to convey the other team's signals and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm not really clear on even what the whole situation is. But I mean, if it was so advanced on the level that they had players wearing wires and all this kind of stuff, I mean, that's serious. But again, I don't want to comment on it too much because I just don't know enough about it. And I just don't follow baseball all that much. So, I mean, if it was NFL, if it was MMA, if it was hockey or basketball, I'd have a little bit more, but I just don't know enough about it. But it is rocking the baseball world. I mean, that much is for sure, because I watch ESPN every day, and it is definitely rocking the baseball world. I'm just not all that clued into it, unfortunately, Mike. But thanks for asking the question, dude. All right, Jacob Silvers writes, "John, if they bring Iron Man into the MCU, I'd be excited. But if they do bring him back, what's the point of Endgame?" Well, Endgame's Endgame. The point of Endgame wasn't Tony making a sacrifice. That wasn't the point of it. That was just one of the things that happened in its conclusion. But it's the same thing for every fake death. It's the same thing for every fake death. You know, what was the point of Loki sacrificing himself to try to save Thor? They just brought him back. They brought him back in Endgame, and now he's got his own standalone series. What was the point of Gamora, being sacrificed in that whole tragic moment when Thanos throws her off the cliff? What was the point of it? She's back.
But John, it's not the same Gamora. It's a different alternate time.
No, it's Gamora. It's Gamora. It just is. They just found a new way to bring back a character that they had killed off. But she's back. She's back. Loki's back. They're all back. They all come back. So the point of it was that it created a great dramatic moment within the film itself for that film. That's what it did. It created a great dramatic moment in the film for it. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree. Fake deaths, when you do them over and 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 over again, they do start to wane off the implication. Because you could say, John, Endgame, Hulk unsnaps everything. What was the point of Infinity War? What was the point of the end of Infinity War? If all they had to do is, make their own, snap his fingers, and there, everybody's back. All the consequences are gone. Everybody's back. The trillions of lives across the galaxy lost. Half of humanity gone. No problem. No consequences. They're all back. Everything's good. Well, because in Infinity War, it created an experiential moment in the film that was stunning and heartbreaking. Seeing Spider-Man die. What was the point of Spider-Man dying in Infinity War? He's just back now. We got new Spider-Man movies and blah, blah. Well, because in the movie, it created a moment that worked for the movie. Now, the problem is, of course, when you do fake death over and 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 over again, it starts to negate the impact of certain scenes. Because, for instance, when Spider-Man died in Infinity War, it didn't hit me nearly as... It was still a great scene, and I really liked the scene. Very, very well done scene. Aces. But it did not affect me nearly as much as affected a lot of other people, because I was like, well, he's not really dead. He's going to be back. He's going to be back next movie. He's going to be back. So this is not really an issue. I heard people weeping when Black Panther died, but I'm like... And it was a very moving moment, but I'm like, it's actually not a big deal because we know he's coming back. So it's no big deal. So what happens is them coming back doesn't negate the purpose of what they did with killing them earlier. But what it does do is that when those moments come, they have less dramatic impact than they can because now we're just used to it. So when Tony died for me, it's like, oh, Tony died. That's sweet. Yep. Start the countdown to when he comes back. He'll be back. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years. He'll be back. He'll be back. Because they always are. They always are. They even killed Thanos and brought him back in the exact same damn movie. But it doesn't undermine or negate, I should say, it doesn't negate the dramatic impact that those things had in their movie. So when they do eventually have Robert Downey Jr. come back, when they eventually do, it does not undo what was done in Endgame any more than Hulk snapping everybody back undoes the dramatic impact of what happened in Infinity War. So anyway, that's just how I kind of say. Everybody's going to look at it differently, and that's totally cool. I'm not necessarily saying my way is the right way of looking at it. It's just that that's how I see it, and it is what it is. All right. J Master writes, hey, John, I just read an article from Inside the Magic that Emily Blunt has reportedly met with Marvel Studios for a feature film. Have a great weekend. Really? From Inside the Magic? That is interesting to hear. I mean, could it mean... Look, what everybody is salivating and getting their geek boner hard on for right now is the idea of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed Richards and Susan Storm, right? That's what everybody wants right now. Everybody wants John Krasinski as Reed Richards and Emily Blunt as Susan Storm. And could that be... Maybe. Maybe. I mean, the fantasy fan castings very, very rarely ever work out. But sometimes. I remember before the first X-Men movie came out, and there was an announcement they were going to do X-Men. The big fan casting for Professor X was Patrick Stewart. That was the number one fan casting, was Patrick Stewart as Professor X. And that happened. Doesn't happen with a lot of the other ones, but that one happened, so you never know. All right, John McKinney writes, with a really nice super chat. Thank you, John, for supporting the channel on that level, buddy. What annoys me about fandom is not liking a film in the franchise. They say you don't deserve to be a fan. Just because I love the original trilogy and like Revenge of the Sith doesn't mean I have to like The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and the sequel trilogy. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Listen, that is pseudo-fandom. A fandom that has a belief that to be a fan, you have to like everything they do, that's fake fandom. That is pseudo-fandom. That's not real fandom. I often use the analogy like the Toronto Maple Leafs. I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have been the number one thing of my fandom, other than Star Wars itself. But they have been the number one object of my fandom, particularly in sports, since I was a child. I grew up watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. I wore all the Toronto Maple Leafs jerseys. I played street hockey, pretending I was Rick Vive coming down the side, taking a pass from Bill Dorlego and firing it past Mike Palmatier, whatever. That was my dream, and I love them. That doesn't mean I cover my eyes, cover my mouth, and plug my ears and stick my head in the sand and pretend that everything the Toronto Maple Leafs has done over the past, well, all the years of my life have been great and wonderful. They haven't. But I love them anyway. You see, real fandom is fandom that loves the things that they love, but also recognizes the things that aren't great about it and loves it anyway. That's real fandom. I made the analogy and the comparison to my wife before. You know, my wife doesn't love me because she looks at me and sees me as being completely perfect. I mean, she should. But my wife does not look at me and sees me as completely perfect, and therefore that's why she loves me. No, my wife, Anne, she knows all my flaws. She knows my weaknesses, and she even knows about flaws of mine that I don't realize I have. I mean, she knows all of my flaws. But she loves me anyway. That is real love. That's real love. Not tricking yourself into thinking the object of your affection is perfect, but rather recognizing the imperfections and loving it anyway. So I've always rejected this nonsense, these pseudo fans who create a false idea about what fandom is. That means, no, don't get me wrong. There are people out there who do legitimately love everything that Star Wars has ever done. And that's great. That's great. But what I reject is, and what we should all reject, is this notion that to be a fan of Star Trek, right? To be a fan of Star Trek means you have to love everything Star Trek's ever done. And if you don't love everything Star Trek's ever done, then that makes you less of a fan. No. I say the nay. See, to me, the real diehard Star Trek fans are the ones who can point out to things in Star Trek, say this didn't work and this didn't work and this didn't work, and yet it still remains the main object of their passionate fandom. That's real fandom. That's real fandom. Doesn't mean you have to dislike certain things, but it means you don't bury your head in the sand and go, la, 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 I see none of the problems, la, la, la. That's not real fandom. You know, Star Wars for me is something that I have been passionately in love with my whole life. It's my earliest childhood memories is Star Wars. But that doesn't mean I love everything Star Wars has ever done. You know, I don't like the Christmas special. I don't like the prequels. I'm not a fan of Clone Wars. I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker. There are things in fandom in the Star Wars universe I didn't love, but that does not change or shake the fact that Star Wars is still the primary object of my fandom affection. And that's what real fandom is. So yes, John, I agree with you. That is, it's just like whenever I hear people say, well, if you didn't like this thing, then you're not a fan of Harry Potter. If you didn't like this thing about Harry Potter, you're not a fan of Harry Potter. To me, that's like a giant idiot light over their heads. Like, oh, there's an idiot. Yeah, I completely reject that. Again, people who love everything because they just naturally do. Nothing wrong with that. That's perfect. That's great. And I envy them. But this notion that if you dislike anything about a certain object in fandom, then that means you're not a fan of that object in fandom. Completely effing ridiculous. Completely effing ridiculous. Anyway, Lowell writes, okay, we've gone over time. I'm just going to race through a couple more here, guys. Lowell writes, one of my favorite sword fights in movies is Richard Gere and Ben Cross from First Night, or Sean Connery. Cheesy, yes, but perfect. And with that Jerry Goldsmith score. So yeah, Jerry Goldsmith is the music guy. Sorry, I did have it right the last time. And by the way, the girl in First Night, she's also the girl in Sabrina, who was like the hottest thing in Hollywood. I am freezing on her name right now, and it's killing me. This French actress. Hold on a second, let me look it up. Sabrina, not the Humphrey Bogart 1954, the one with Harrison Ford. The one with Harrison Ford and Greg Kinnear. There it is. Julia Ormond. Julia Ormond was also in First Night. She was like the most beautiful and one of the most gifted actresses. Like she was like the new Julia Roberts at the time. Julia Ormond was like the hottest actress in Hollywood. And then all of a sudden disappeared. She just disappeared. And by the way, guys, a little plug that I just mentioned. If you have not seen the 1995 Harrison Ford, Greg Kinnear, Julia Ormond film, Sabrina, oh my God, check it out. It is such a delightful, wonderful movie. Oh, I forgot Lauren Holly's in there too. Delightful, absolutely wonderful movie. Directed by Sidney Pollack. Go watch it. It's absolutely fantastic. Nice pick on that one, Lowell. Okay. Mike T54 writes, since Birds of Prey is getting good early reviews, does this increase the chances of maybe a surprise Joker cameo or another big cameo? Over under 38% for Joker. I'm going to go under, but I don't think the positive reaction does anything about his appearance. I don't think it really means anything. I have said for a while, though, I think there's a chance we get a Joker cameo. I think that I do not believe at all that it's the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but possibly a Jared Leto appearance. I don't know, but I would still go under 38% on that. But I don't think positive or negative reaction coming out of the movie speaks at all as to the chances that a Joker cameo happens. I think the chances are what they are, and I do think there's a chance, but I'm going to take under 38%. Mike T writes, until I saw the trailer for Rhythm Section, I thought the movie was about a marching band or something. Me too. You're not alone in that. I've only seen one trailer for it. Bad sign? No, it just means that they didn't have a ton of money for a marketing campaign. It's a smaller budget movie with some really good names in it, but a smaller budget movie, and they just maybe just didn't have the marketing for it. Listen, we've seen a lot of bad movies put $100 million into their marketing for a terrible movie. A lot of marketing doesn't necessarily mean the movie's good. A lack of marketing doesn't necessarily mean the movie's bad. So I'm not going to look at it one way or the other. I am very interested in seeing this movie, though. I've liked the trailer, so there's that. Kevin D. Liberto writes, she's on the Bones card next week. Oh, Shevchenko? Okay, interesting. I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that. I was just, why didn't I not see that fight when I looked it up? Anyway, thank you for pointing that out, Kevin. Casinema Reviews writes, one of two. Over a month later, and I'm still finding things that don't make sense in The Rise of Skywalker, but I feel afraid to talk about them out of fear of being called a hypocrite for defending The Last Jedi. Am I wrong to feel that way? Also, when I said The Rise of Skywalker feels like JJ kicked my crotch for liking The Last Jedi, it was a joke. It's not simply that he made a movie I didn't like. It's all the lies. Khan was one thing, but constant lies, hypocrisy, manipulation, and the cynical and petty feeling of the way he retconned stuff from The Last Jedi. Well, listen, first of all, no, there's no hypocrisy. I listen, I also like The Last Jedi, and I don't like The Rise of Skywalker. There's no hypocrisy in that. I just thought one film was better than the other. That's all it is. Some people feel the opposite. Some people will like both. Some people will dislike both. It is what it is, so don't worry about that. Listen, they just did what they did with The Rise of Skywalker. They did because they felt it was what was best for that movie. It has nothing to do with Rian Johnson, has nothing to do with being spiteful to Rian Johnson. And by the way, they owe Rian Johnson nothing. They need to make the best movie they can make. Now, you and I can have opinions as to whether or not they made the right decisions and they went in the right directions. And I clearly have my opinions about that. And you clearly have your opinions about that. And yeah, we can have that discussion. But At the end of the day, they made decisions that they thought were in the best interests of their movie. I don't agree with those decisions. You clearly don't agree with those decisions, but I also have no doubt that that's what the impetus was. The impetus was they needed to make decisions that they felt was in the best interest of their movie. And at that point, listen, you don't go, well, we can't do what's best for our movie because that would be disrespectful. No, fuck that. You do what is best for your movie. And sometimes you'll be right and sometimes you'll be wrong, but that needs to be your North Star. Your guiding principle needs to be, we need to do what is best for this movie. And I respect that. I disagree with the decisions they made. I didn't like the movie, but I still believe that at the core, even if I think they were wrong, and others may think they were right, but even if I think they're wrong, I got to respect that they simply were doing what they thought was the best thing for their movie. Even if at the end of the day, I don't think they were right, it was what their motivation was. So anyway, that's just kind of my opinion on that cinema. So I feel your pain, buddy. I feel your pain. All right, Brian Wentzloff writes, Vince and the WWE board just fired 2 top executives. I know nothing about that. Although Ann and I are going to Florida to go see WrestleMania. Yeah, Ann and I made the decision. My wife, for her birthday, wants to go to Florida to go to WrestleMania. That's my wife, ladies and gentlemen. Corey I. Marsh Sr. just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that, man. Jesse Price writes, hey, John, I'm seeing Jojo Rabbit tonight. Have a good time. Again, it may not be the best film of the year to you. You might not even like it, but it is my #1 film of the year, and I hope you have a good time, man. All right. Brian Wensloff writes, hey, John, been following you for 10 years and want to say that my wife and I are starting a podcast that covers movies and TVs and pro wrestling. Very cool. Thanks for all the advice I've taken from you. Dude, that's, first of all, it is great to just get involved in podcasting, all that kind of stuff just on its own. It's always great to do that. When you actually get to do it with your partner, that's even the best. That is the best. Honestly, because Ann and I, it's really tough because Ann's got a very, very demanding, big job with Hasbro and all that kind of stuff. But some of the favorite stuff that Ann and I have ever done was when we used to do the Green Arrow stuff together, and then we started doing the Mandalorian stuff together. Like, it's always the most fun when you can do that with your partner. And that is awesome, Brian, that is the case for you. So that is tremendous. That's super great. I'm glad you guys are doing that. I hope you guys have a lot of fun doing it. And remember, just do it for the fun of it. Don't worry if you have 2 people listening or if you have 200 people listening. It doesn't matter. Do it for the fun of it. Just enjoy it. Have a good time doing it. And if you do, it'll be a totally worthwhile experience. All right, guys, listen. For everybody else waiting from James Hopkins, Casinema Reviews, and everybody else on afterwards, we will get to your questions first thing on tomorrow's open mic show. So when I do open mic tomorrow, the very first question, yours will be the first questions that we ask on the show, and we'll get caught up on those questions tomorrow. We've just run out of time for today. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. Special thanks, of course, to the great Mr. Dennis Zen for being in here. Hopefully we'll get to see him pop in again once in a while as we move into the future. And a special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you're doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you very much for that support. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy your weekend. May it be filled with great fun and relaxation. Have a good time watching the Super Bowl. And then, of course, we will be back again tomorrow for open mic. But then the John Campea Show returns on Monday with one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, who's going to be back from Portland. So he'll be in here on the show on Monday. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name is John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.